Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack complex topics and really pull out the key insights for you. Today, we're diving into something that really challenges, well, a lot of what we thought we knew about health and nutrition. We're talking about fasting.
Indeed. We've taken a really close look at The Complete Guide to Fasting by Dr. Jason Fung and Jimmy Moore. And our goal today is, to cut through some of the confusion, explain what fasting actually is, bust some common myths, and highlight its, well, frankly surprising health benefits. Especially for things like weight loss and type 2 diabetes, you might have a few aha moments.
Yeah, this isn't just like skipping breakfast. It's about understanding a practice that goes way back. And it might just be a missing piece for a lot of people's health puzzles. Okay, so let's get into this. Our sources talk a lot about Dr. Jason Fung. He started out as a conventionally trained nephrologist up in Toronto, a kidney disease specialist. So he was seeing hundreds, literally hundreds, of patients with type 2 diabetes with obesity. But what's really striking is he admits, across 9 years of medical training, he maybe got 4 hours total on nutrition. 4 hours.
It's pretty telling, isn't it?
So how does someone like that, trained in conventional medicine, end up prescribing things like intensive dietary changes, including fasting?
Well, that's a key part of the story. His turning point, it seems, came from reading studies in top journals like the New England Journal of Medicine. And these studies were showing pretty clearly that low-carb diets were actually way better for weight loss. And even improved things like cholesterol, blood pressure, cardiovascular risk factors compared to the standard low-fat advice everyone was getting.
That must have created a real conflict for him, a conundrum. Because he, like pretty much everyone else, was taught the whole calories in, calories out idea. Right. CICO, just eat less, move more. Right. But then he looked around and thought, hang on, we've been pushing eat less, move more for, 50 years? And it's clearly, well, it's not working for most people. Obesity rates keep climbing.
Exactly. And that led him to dig deeper. Connecting the dots, the sources suggest the real issue, the underlying cause of obesity, isn't just calories, it's hormonal.
Hormonal?
Yes, specifically it's about insulin. Insulin is fundamentally a fat storage hormone. So if your insulin levels are high all the time, your body is constantly getting the signal to store fat. It leads, almost inevitably, to obesity.
And that throws up another question, right? Doctors prescribe insulin for type 2 diabetes to lower blood sugar.
Which it does.
But it also causes weight gain. So were they actually treating the root cause? Or just managing a symptom while potentially making the underlying problem worse?
That's the crucial insight. Dr. Fung realized that too much insulin causes insulin resistance. It's like your body builds up a tolerance. Think about tolerance to alcohol or drugs. You need more and more to get the same effect. With insulin resistance, your cells become less sensitive to insulin's signal, so your body pumps out even more insulin. It's a vicious cycle.
Okay, so if excessive insulin and the resulting resistance are the core problem behind obesity and type 2 diabetes,
then the solution seems almost, well, deceptively simple. Reduce the insulin.
Right, and that's the link to fasting. But okay, hold on. Before we jump into the how-to, let's tackle the big one. Because when you hear fasting, I bet a lot of people immediately think starvation. Are they the same thing? Is this just starving yourself?
No, absolutely not. And this is such a critical distinction. Starvation is involuntary. It's forced upon you, maybe during a famine. There's just no food available. You have no control. Fasting is completely different. It's the voluntary choice to abstain from eating for a period. Food is available. You just choose not to eat it for therapeutic reasons or spiritual reasons or whatever. That control changes everything physiologically and psychologically.
So it's more like rediscovering an ancient tool, almost.
Yeah.
The sources mention Jimmy Moore, who worked with Dr. Fung on the book. He was apparently really skeptical at first. I mean, he mentions he once weighed 410 pounds, loved to eat. Understandable skepticism.
Very understandable.
But after he lost a lot of weight, like 180 pounds, using a low-carb approach, he decided to actually try a week-long fast. What was that like for him initially?
Well, his first attempt was pretty tough. He described himself as a ravenous beast afterwards, basically overeating because he was so hungry.
Okay, so not exactly a smooth start.
Not at all. But what's really insightful is what he learned from that. He realized that being fat adapted or a fat burner before you fast makes a world of difference. See, if your body is already used to burning fat for fuel, which happens on a low-carb or ketogenic diet, it can easily tap into your fat stores. You've got like 40,000 calories or more stored as fat.
Compared to only about 2,000 calories stored as sugar, as glycogen.
Exactly. So if you're mostly a sugar burner, when that runs out, you feel that hunger intensely. The fat burner has a much larger fuel tank to draw from. Later on, he did a 3-week fast, just using water, some kombucha, bone broth. His experience was totally different. He described feeling euphoric and surprisingly energetic. His ketone levels went way up, fueling his brain, and his health markers improved dramatically. His LDL cholesterol, for instance, dropped significantly.
Wow. Okay, so let's get into the actual mechanics then. What's happening inside your body when you stop eating?
Okay, so when you eat, especially carbs and protein, your insulin levels go up. Insulin's job is to help your cells take in glucose for energy and store the excess. First, it stores it as glycogen, mainly in your liver and muscles, but those stores are pretty limited, like we said.
The 2,000 calories or so.
Right. Once those are full, any extra energy gets converted and stored as fat. That's the high insulin or fed state. Now, when you fast, you stop putting food in, so your insulin levels drop dramatically. This drop in insulin is the signal. It tells your body, okay, stop storing energy, start burning stored energy.
Switch from deposit mode to withdrawal mode.
Pretty much. First, the body uses up that stored glycogen. That usually takes somewhere between, say, 12 to 36 hours, depending on the person and activity level. After the glycogen is gone, the body needs fuel, so it starts breaking down stored body fat into fatty acids, which can be used directly by most cells, and ketones, which the brain can use very efficiently. That's the low insulin or fasted state.
So your body basically just flips a metabolic switch.
Exactly. You're either storing energy, fed state, high insulin, or burning energy, fasted state, low insulin. There's not really an in-between.
And this switch triggers some pretty amazing hormonal changes too, right? You mentioned ketones, but what about other things? People worry about losing muscle mass if they fast.
Yeah, that's a huge misconception. What actually happens is quite the opposite, thanks to human growth hormone, or HGH. During fasting, HGH levels can surge. The sources mention increases of up to 1,250% during a really long fast, like 40 days.
1,250%. Wow.
Yeah, and HGH helps preserve lean muscle mass and promotes fat burning, so your body preferentially burns fat, not muscle.
That has big implications maybe for athletes thinking about training while fasted.
Huge implications. And it completely debunks the starvation mode myth, the idea that your metabolism crashes when you fast. Studies actually show the opposite. Your metabolic rate can actually increase during short-term fasting. Your body revs up, fueled by adrenaline and noradrenaline, to give you energy to theoretically go find food.
It's like your body knows it has plenty of fuel stored as fat.
Like having a huge pile of firewood.
So it doesn't need to slow down. It just needs to access it. It's not going to burn the sofa muscle when there's plenty of wood fat available.
Precisely. It's designed to use those fat stores.
Okay, that makes sense. But then why do people fear starvation mode so much? And why do we see metabolism slow down dramatically with traditional low-calorie diets? Think about those biggest loser contestants.
That's the critical difference. With chronic calorie restriction, just eating less all the time, your body does adapt by slowing down your metabolism. It thinks, okay, less energy is coming in consistently. I need to reduce energy output to survive. That's why those contestants lost huge amounts of weight but struggled immensely to keep it off. Their metabolisms had tanked.
Because they were constantly in a state of perceived deprivation, but without flipping the hormonal switch to access fat stores effectively.
Exactly. Fasting is different. It's not chronic restriction. It's intermittent. You cycle between feeding and fasting. During the fast, low insulin allows access to your fat stores. Your body has abundant fuel from that fat, so there's no signal to slow metabolism down. It might even speed it up temporarily. It addresses the root issue, the insulin resistance, and retrains your body to burn its own fat. That's why it can work when just cutting calories often fails long term.
Okay, another big fear, hunger. If you fast, aren't you just going to be constantly painfully hungry?
Well, you'd think so, but the sources, and many people's experiences, suggest otherwise. Hunger isn't usually a continuous thing that just gets worse and worse. It tends to come in waves. You feel a pang, it lasts a bit, and then it often just passes. Especially if you stay hydrated, maybe have some tea or water, you learn to just ride out the wave.
And there's also a psychological component, right? Conditioned hunger.
Absolutely. Like Pavlov's dogs salivating at the bell, we're conditioned by schedules, smells, social cues. Lunchtime rolls around, you feel hungry, even if you're not physiologically needing food.
Seeing a food ad on TV.
Exactly. Fasting helps break those conditioned responses. And interestingly, Many people report that after the first couple of days of a longer fast, their hunger actually decreases significantly or even disappears.
Really? Disappears.
Yeah, some even report feeling a sense of euphoria or heightened mental clarity. This is often linked to the brain running efficiently on ketones instead of glucose.
Okay, hunger might be manageable. What about nutrients? If you're not eating, aren't you going to become deficient in vitamins and minerals?
That's another common concern, but generally not an issue for shorter fasts. On your eating days, you focus on nutrient-dense whole foods, and you can easily get what you need. Your body also stores many vitamins and minerals. For longer fasts, say over several days, the sources suggest a simple multivitamin is often sufficient insurance. They mention this incredible case study of a man who fasted for 382 days under medical supervision.
Over a year.
Yes, and he only took a multivitamin, potassium, and sodium supplements and experienced no ill effects from nutrient deficiency, lost a huge amount of weight safely. Plus, your body is smart. It has recycling mechanisms, especially for essential things like amino acids and fatty acids, to conserve them during fasting periods.
That's quite reassuring. But surely fasting isn't for everyone. Are there people who should definitely not fast?
Yes, absolutely. This is really important. Fasting is not appropriate and potentially dangerous for certain groups. Anyone who is severely malnourished or underweight, the sources mention a BMI below 18.5 or maybe even 20 as a caution flag.
Okay, underweight individuals.
Also, children under 18 because they're still growing, pregnant women and breastfeeding women as they have increased nutritional needs.
Makes sense.
And crucially, if you have certain medical conditions like gout, or if you're taking specific medications, especially things like insulin or sulfonylureas for diabetes, metformin, even aspirin or blood pressure meds or iron supplements, you must talk to your doctor before trying fasting.
Why is that so critical?
Because fasting dramatically lowers blood sugar and blood pressure. If you're taking medications designed to lower them further, you could run into serious problems like hypoglycemia or dangerously low blood pressure. Doses often need careful adjustment, and monitoring is key. So doctor supervision is essential in those cases.
Got it. Safety first. Assuming it's safe for someone, what are the practical upsides? Beyond the potential health benefits we've discussed.
Well, there are some pretty compelling practical advantages. First off, it's free.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah, I mean, eating healthy food can be expensive sometimes. Fasting costs literally nothing. Actually, it saves you money on groceries.
Good point. What else?
Second, it's simple, really simple. There are no complicated meal plans, no calorie counting, no macro tracking, no special shakes or bars to buy. You're just not eating for a defined period. It simplifies your life, in a way. Less time spent cooking, planning, cleaning up.
Okay, free and simple. Sounds good.
And third, it's incredibly flexible. This is maybe one of the biggest practical benefits. You can adjust your fasting schedule to fit your life. Got a dinner party? Don't fast that day. Going on holiday? Adjust your schedule. Busy work week? Maybe a shorter eating window fits perfectly. It's not about forcing your life to revolve around a rigid diet. It's about fitting this tool into your existing lifestyle. And speaking of flexibility, it's important to know that fasting isn't just one single thing. There are lots of different ways to do it, different protocols. It's not one size fits all.
Right. Let's maybe walk through some of the common options the sources mentioned, maybe starting with the less intensive ones.
Sure. The simplest, maybe, is a 12-hour overnight fast, like finishing dinner at 7 p.m. and eating breakfast at 7 a.m. This used to be totally normal, but with late-night snacking, many people don't even get that 12 hours anymore. It's good for maintenance, probably, but maybe not powerful enough to reverse significant issues.
Okay, so 12 hours is a starting point. What's next?
A very popular one is the 16.8 method. That's 16 hours of fasting with an 8-hour eating window.
Often called time-restricted eating.
Exactly. Often people achieve this just by skipping breakfast and having their first meal at lunchtime, say noon, and finishing dinner by 8 p.m. It fits pretty easily into a daily routine for many people.
And you can go shorter on the eating window too, right? Like 20 hours fasting.
Yep, that's sometimes called the warrior diet approach, a 20-hour fast with just a 4-hour eating window, usually in the evening.
Okay, what about fasting for a full day?
You could do a 24-hour fast. This often means eating dinner one night, then skipping breakfast and lunch the next day, and eating dinner again that evening. Or lunch to lunch, or breakfast to breakfast.
So you're still eating one meal on that fasting day.
Right. Which can be helpful if you need to take medication with food, for example. And it slots quite easily into a workday, just skip lunch.
Then there's the 5.2 diet that got quite popular.
Yes, the 5.2 approach involves 5 days of normal eating and two non-consecutive fast days where you restrict calories significantly, usually to around 500-600 calories. It's not a true fast, but it mimics some of the effects and can be a good way for people to ease into the idea.
Okay, so those are mostly fitting within a daily or weekly pattern. What about longer fasts?
For more significant impacts on weight loss or blood sugar, people might move to 36-hour or 42-hour fasts. A 36-hour fast means you fast for an entire day. So you eat dinner on day 1, fast all of day 2, only non-caloric fluids, and eat breakfast on day 3. That gives you a full 36 hours without food.
That sounds more intensive.
It is, but it also gives your insulin levels a longer period to stay low, promoting more significant fat burning and cellular cleanup processes like autophagy. A 42-hour fast would be similar, maybe dinner day 1 to lunch day 3. These are often used more therapeutically, maybe 2 or 3 times a week for type 2 diabetes management under guidance.
And then the sources even mention much longer protocols.
Yes, for very severe cases like morbid obesity or difficult to control diabetes or to break through stubborn weight plateaus, protocols involving consecutive fasts of 7 to 14 days are sometimes used.
But you mentioned needing medical supervision for those.
Absolutely critical. These longer fasts require careful monitoring, especially for electrolytes, and the sources strongly advise against doing them too frequently or going beyond 14 days at a time outside of a clinical setting, mainly due to the rare but serious risk of refeeding syndrome, especially if someone is malnourished to begin with.
Feeding syndrome.
It's a dangerous metabolic complication that can happen when nutrition is reintroduced too quickly after a period of starvation or severe malnutrition. Needs careful management.
Good to know. So regardless of the length, what's key during the fasting period itself?
Hydration is paramount. Water, plain tea, green tea, black tea, herbal teas are usually fine, black coffee. Homemade bone broth is often recommended too, especially for longer fasts, as it provides sodium and other minerals without many calories.
And avoid.
Generally avoid anything with calories. And artificial sweeteners are usually discouraged too. Even though they don't have calories, they can sometimes trigger an insulin response or increase cravings and hunger for some people, which kind of defeats the purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
What really stands out to you from looking at all these different options?
For me, it really comes back to that flexibility. There isn't one right way to fast. You can experiment and find a rhythm, a schedule that genuinely works with your body, your goals, and your life. That makes it much more sustainable long term.
So wrapping this up, if you've been curious about fasting, hopefully this deep dive shows it's not some weird modern fad. It's actually a deeply rooted human practice. And it really flips the script on the old eat less, move more advice, pointing instead towards managing our hormones, especially insulin.
Yeah, it's not really about deprivation in the long run. It's more about tapping into your body's own natural ability to fuel itself using stored fat. And while doing that, you get these bonus effects like boosted growth hormone, maybe better mental clarity from ketones. Plus, it's free, it's simple, it's flexible, and the potential results, especially for weight loss and reversing type 2 diabetes, seem pretty remarkable based on the sources.
It really highlights how adaptable our bodies are. By, just periodically stepping back from food, you might be unlocking some ancient metabolic wisdom. It seems to offer a path to some significant health benefits.
Definitely food for thought. And maybe as you consider all this, here's a final idea to ponder. Our ancestors clearly lived through cycles of feast and famine or feast and fast. It's built into our biology. So what hidden strengths, what resilience might your own body unlock if you gave it the chance to experience that natural rhythm again?